frequency. We also use the Futaba S131 servo because of the strength and torque of the servo itself. It's waterproof, ball bearing, has brass gears, and it has a very high amount of torque that enables it to center the steering on the car. I'm virtually taking mental notes during the entire race, watching how the car comes off the jump, watching how it goes into the corner, out of the turn, and watching the speed of the car on the straightaway. I find that many times if the car isn't jumping properly, it could mean just making a slight adjustment on the rear wing angle, or perhaps it will mean changing the dampening in the rear shocks or the front shocks. How that's determined is going to be based upon the angle of the car coming off the jump. Also, in the turns, I found that when the car is hooking coming out of the turn, many times if a little more preload is put on the right front shock, it'll have a tendency to make the car push, and therefore it'll take away some of the tendency for the car to hook. But I'm virtually watching every movement of the car, trying to see how I can make improvements on the suspension. The only way that you can actually make those improvements is going to be based upon the reaction of the car, because the improvements have to be based upon that.
Next, world champion driver Jammin tells you about the winning edge and his techniques for racing.
Sometime in the morning, I look, but you're not there. It made me think that I was losing you, and you didn't really care. You were gone, but I knew you'd be coming back to see. It's been too long and you couldn't do that to me. Oh well, when you're gone, I think of all the words you said. But when you're here, the words just seem to slip away. I can't think.
The team effort is mainly me, my dad, Mike Reedy. We work together. Mike Reedy is my motor sponsor. When I'm out on the track running, he's watching the car, seeing how the motor's running, if it's lagging out of the corners, if we need to gear up, if we need more top end, how the battery life is at the end of the race, and different things like that. My dad, his part of the team is mainly the suspension. When something breaks, he's basically my mechanic. When we're at the track, when we're at home, we work together. And my part of the team is try to drive it as good as I can. I think the winning edge for me is to try to maintain my equipment, have a positive mind when I go into the race, always think positive, and to have the best equipment that I can afford. The most important thing I can say for a beginning racer is to think positive, maintain your car as best as possible, always have a good attitude, watch your mouth on the driver's stand, and looking for sponsors to keep your car always in tip-top condition, keep it clean, drive the best possible. Don't try to go out on the track and drive fast like you see other guys doing. Go out on the track and try to drive smooth. That's the main key, is to be smooth and consistent. My strategy at the starting line is listening for the horn, the very first thing on my mind. Taking off of the line is the second thing, trying to get a very clean start, as clean as started as possible, and reacting to any problems I have on the start with other cars, across the track in front of me or coming up behind me, faster cars, and just trying to stay clean on the start of the race and get into the first corner as fast as possible and in front of as many cars as possible, so I don't have to pass them later on in the race and risk taking myself out in them. During the race, there's different strategies I use. If I'm far back at the beginning of the race, depending on what kind of track it is, if I have the car geared so to just make the time or different things like that. If I'm back at the beginning of the race and I get a real bad start, I'll push as hard as I can for the whole race if I'm a long ways back. If I'm not too far back, I'll push, but I'll drive smooth and I'll take it easy on the car, so I'll have battery life at the end, and try to have more motor and battery life at the end so I can pass them then. I have to go out on the track before the race knowing ahead of time what I want to do, what I'm going to do in this corner, the fast lines. A lot of times I'll go out on the track and I'll find a fast line and I know it's a quick line, but I won't run that line in all the heat races because then all the other people see that line too. So then I'll wait till the main event and I'll use that line and I can make up time, and all the other racers a lot of times won't know about that line. And I concentrate on the car. I try not to think about anything else, and I try to drive about 5 feet in front of my car so I know what's coming up on when I'm on the track. When I go into a corner, I turn the front wheels and the car keeps on going straight or it doesn't react right away. Usually that means that I have the wrong front tires on, I need more bite up front, or I need to loosen the front suspension. I compensate to get rid of hooking or spinning out by running less tire or stiffening up the front springs. If I'm in the lead, my main strategy is I try to save the car, squeeze coming out of the corners, use my head when I come up on lapping traffic, and basically just try to keep the car in one piece. Or if it's just a few seconds to go and I'm behind in the race and I have to make up a lot of ground, I have to push really hard, but I have to use my head and go fast in the right places without risking damaging the car or flipping or losing more ground to the leader. At the very end of the race is probably the most difficult part of the race for me. I get very nervous if I'm in the lead. I'm really trying to be careful to save the car, and sometimes I'm too careful and I slow down too much and I can be passed. So the most exciting thing for me is the competition and winning major races, doing my best and coming out ahead of everybody else winning. Not that I win all the time, but when I do, it's a big thrill. It's the only car that was designed for racing. Most of the cars on the market right now were designed for fun or to look realistic. The RC10 was designed to look realistic, but it was designed for racing too. It's a real strong car. I heard that there's going to be a world championship race. I raced as much as possible a year before that. I was hitting all the races, racing 3-4 times a week, getting in as much practice as I could at home. And then I went to the regionals and different qualifying races, what they have, where you have to either place in the A main or win the A main at certain regionals or nationals so you can qualify to race in the